you all for being here, all of you. My name is Nathaniel Curtis. I work for a company called WSP. Among other things, we conduct public outreach for this very fine project. I'm going to be back up in a little bit, but for starters, I am going to hand this off to our Mass DOT resident engineer, Joe Stasio.
Thanks, Nate. So good evening, everyone. My name is Joseph Stasio with Mass DOT. I'm the resident engineer on this project. Thank you for joining us tonight. Our agenda for this presentation is as follows. What do we want to accomplish? How will we build this project? How will roadway users be affected? How will we keep you informed? And then at the end, we'll have plenty of time for Q&A.
There you go, Mark. Hit that one. There you go.
All right. Sorry about that. So our team tonight is comprised of representatives from Mass DOT and also the design build team. From MassDOT, we have Dan Fielding, who is our legislative liaison, and we also have Peter Trentozzi, who is the assistant district construction engineer. From Middlesex, we have Mike Ortler, who's the project manager. And from WSP, we have Nathaniel Cabral Curtis, who is the public involvement specialist. We also have Eric Mackey, who is the lead traffic engineer. And we also have Rich Lennox, who is the design manager. I'll now take a moment to go over MassDOT's policy on diversity and civil rights. All MassDOT activities, including public meetings, are free of discrimination. MassDOT complies with all federal and state civil rights requirements, preventing discrimination based on sex, race, color, ancestry, national origin, limited English proficiency, religion, creed, gender, sexual orientation, gender identity or expression, or veteran status. We welcome the diversity from across our entire service area. If you have any questions or concerns, please visit https://www.mass.gov/non-discrimination-in-transportation-program to reach the Office of Diversity and Civil Rights. To participate, we ask that you listen and view this 30-minute presentation, and that you ask any questions to the project team during the question and answer period. Submit comments into the comment box at the signing table up front, and any representatives of the media can direct media inquiries to jacqueline.goddard@dot.state.ma.us. So I'll now take a moment to go over how we got here. The 6 bridges in our project area date back to 1962, when this section of I-495 opened to traffic. In 2011, MassDOT identified the need to replace the 6 bridges in our project area. While the bridges are safe for everyday use, they require frequent inspection and frequent maintenance to maintain that safety, and they are at the end of their useful lifespan. The new bridges will be built to modern standards, and the current bridges do not meet those modern standards. From 2015 to 2021, MassDOT advanced the preliminary design, and we conducted some initial outreach in 2018. We held a 25% design public hearing in 2021. Then in 2023, February, we advertised this project for bids to design and build teams. And in 2024, we initiated public outreach for this project. That brings us to this meeting tonight, and I'll hand this back over to Nate for a moment to go over our outreach process.
Thank you very kindly, appreciate it. So this is all of where we advertised this meeting. We are fortunate in having some of the folks from Lawrence Community Access with us this evening. You can see these are all of the various mass media outlets, as well as MassDOT's Gov delivery system, which some of you may have received an email. And then I think, you can read all these, but I think the important thing is to just look at these dates. So there are 2 meetings associated with this project. One is tonight in Lawrence, and if you really love this presentation, you can see it again in Andover on the 23rd. And really the idea behind doing all this advertising is, think of it as being like at the 4th of July fireworks display. There's this constant rolling sort of drumbeat of, please come pay attention to this is important. So we can go through those all if you want, but I think the important thing is just get a sense of all the outlets and all the dates. Now you might also have gotten a flyer from us. These are the locations in Andover where we did drops of flyers in multiple languages. If you see one of these red circles, that means that we also had a staff table there, which meant we have kind of a living meeting advertisement. We set up a small folding table like the one out in the hall, and as people go by, we flag them down and just say, hey, this project is coming to your neighborhood. We think you might want to take a look at this because it will have some impacts on you. One thing that's worth noting as well, if you look, and because it kind of cuts between the 2 communities, but if you look right here, this is where the interchange and the bridges over Route 28 would be. We specifically picked 195 homes that really have what I'd call ringside seating. Those folks got a flyer dropped directly at their door. That would have been last Monday. And then here we have everything where we put something in Lawrence. Again, we have our 2 staff table sites, their public library, and the America's Food Basket grocery store, and then a whole bunch of other sites. When we drop these flyers, we look for someplace that is, neutral. We try not to have it someplace where, it's kind of somebody's space. You don't tend to put it in maybe a church, because not everybody goes to that church, or you don't put it in a hospital, because some people feel afraid of the doctors. So you try to put it somewhere where lots of people go. Everybody goes to the grocery store, lots of people go to the library. Sometimes people have to go to the registry. And one thing that I will note is, obviously, we feel that, dropping things off at this public pool is a good idea, but we couldn't do that for this meeting because going to a public outdoor pool right now would not be any fun at all. We also want to thank everybody who shared our flyers. So the state delegation for both communities, the Registry of Motor Vehicles, the city governments, going all the way up into Methuen, the various select boards, the various school departments, the disability, elderly, and veteran services departments, area healthcare providers, social service organizations, and the Merrimack Valley Chamber of Commerce. So everybody's been really nice to us. I know that the area Metropolitan Planning Organization, or MPO if you're in the know, they've helped push this as well, so just a thank you to everybody who did that. At this point, I will hand it back over to Joe, who's going to talk you through some more of the project.
Thanks, Nate. So here's our project area. We're right on the Andover-Lawrence municipal border. And you can see the 6 bridges labeled by the yellow boxes on the screen. 4 of them go over Route 28, which splits underneath the highway, and 2 of them go over the MBTA commuter rail, which is the Haverhill line. We know these are very busy roadways and they have many impacts on everyone. All the work that we're doing is with the goal of having as little impact as possible. I-495 does carry 57,000 vehicles per day in each direction, and Route 28 carries 14,700 vehicles per day in each direction, and also has access to homes, businesses, educational opportunities, and medical care. The limits here, you can see on 495 stretch for about a mile from the left side of the screen to the right side of the screen, and that will include roadway work on the highway, and then the limits of roadway work down below on Route 28 stretch about 400 feet in either direction past the bridges. So now I'll go over what we want to accomplish with this project. So as you can see in the slide here, we're looking to improve conditions for all modes of transportation. We're trying to update everything to modern standards. We want to provide 6 new bridges with fewer joints and supports. We want to have fewer impacts to the traveling public from maintenance activities that are currently more frequent than we would like. We would like to complete all roadway work and provide safer acceleration and deceleration and merging between the ramps at I-495 Route 28 and I-495 Route 14. We will have fully compliant breakdown lanes at the end of the project, as well as auxiliary lanes in between those 2 interchanges, and we will upgrade all the guardrail and improve safety throughout on the corner. Last note here is this project also gives us an opportunity to make bicycle and pedestrian improvements down below the bridges within the limits of work on Route 28. So now getting into our planned construction approach, this project is a little bit unique. We are going with design build procurement, and the typical method of procurement that we use on a job is design bid build. So MassDOT would develop a set of plans and put it out for bid, and then contractors would bid on that set of plans, and the lowest bidder wins, and they would build that project exactly how it's shown on the plans. With this project, we're going with design build. So MassDOT puts together a sketch set of plans, or a BTC, stands for base technical concept. And the reason that we do that is because we then put that base technical concept out for bid to teams of contractors and engineers that work together to finish the design and then construct the project. That allows coordination, flexibility, innovation between the team of the design build team. So that's the Middlesex WSP team that we have here today. They provide MassDOT with a price to finish the design and also construct the project. So the winner of that bid is based on best value, not just lowest cost. So we also looked at their technical proposal, what innovations they have to improve the timeline, lessen the impacts to the public, and just make for a better project overall. So it gives them the flexibility to come up with their own innovations instead of us just telling them exactly what to do. So the goal of all that is to deliver the project in a shorter time frame, because we're only going to 25% design, so that saves time on the front end. And it allows us to progress the rest of the design and the construction simultaneously. And that saves time in the overall schedule. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Mike Ortler, project manager at the Middlesex Corporation, to talk through our construction staging and approach.
All right, perfect. Good evening, everyone. So like Joe mentioned, with this being a design build, right now the Middlesex WSP team is currently finishing the 25% BTC design. In conjunction, on the construction side of the house, we're completing all the shop drawings, plans, getting ready for mobilizing equipment, all of our labor resources, so when construction does start, we hit the ground running and never look back. Joe mentioned that design build is really all about innovation and optimization. One thing I do want to highlight here is that the original design, some people may have seen it when that was released a few years ago, is the original design had a split barrel traffic pattern. So what that means is on your 3-lane highway, you would have 1 lane of travel, a split with barrier protecting our work zone as well as the public, and then 2 more lanes. Obviously, you can picture that in your head. There comes a lot of challenges with that. My career, I've done that a few times, and the biggest thing is that if someone gets into an accident in that single lane, it takes a lot of time to get them out. You end up building up congestion, and it's just not good for everyone who takes this on their daily commute. So what our team has done is we've created a traffic pattern, so at all time during peak hour, all of your rush hour, you'll always have 3 lanes. Now I'm going to start clicking through and I'll walk everyone through what it will look like over the next few years. So the conditions up on the board right now, that's what everyone sees and drives today. It's 3 lanes on either side, northbound and southbound. This year, in June, we'll start into our construction season, which is our stage 1, which is the summer of this year to fall of next year. All of our work is taking place in the median there. So again, during peak hours, we are not affecting the flow of traffic. We do make work for ourselves in the median by scooching traffic over a little bit towards the shoulder, but again, all the lane widths and travel lanes will remain very similar to what everyone sees today. In the fall of 25, the northbound traffic gets moved to the center median. From there, our team then moves over to the northbound lanes, which will all be closed, divided by traffic barrier, where we will then demolish and rebuild the northbound. Very similar into 26, we just flip everything. So the northbound now goes to the new permanent bridge, southbound gets moved to the median. We take our work zone in the southbound lanes, demolish and rebuild the new bridge and roadway. And then at the end of our project here, the summer of 27 into fall, that's when we're essentially putting everyone on their on the new permanent bridges and permanent roadway. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to Eric.
So there will be some unavoidable traffic impacts on both 495 and Route 28 during construction. However, lane reductions and detours will occur outside of the peak commuter hours. All 3 lanes on 495 will remain open, as Mike said, but there will be some closures on Route 28, one direction at a time. I'm going to walk you through the various detours associated with the project one by one. As I do, just keep in mind that these detours are short-term and implemented at night only. They won't be in place day after day, impacting rush hour. All detours shown will be used in each of the stages Mike just went through, and the reason for them is to allow us to work safely over Route 28 or to adjust one of the ramps between 28 and 495. Our goal is to design detours that keep drivers on larger roads and off of smaller residential streets. We have also looked for intersections with dedicated left turn lanes and traffic signals so traffic doesn't back up. Where we can, we have tried to provide 2 detours to get to the same place, so if you miss your first chance, you're not out of luck to find your way back. Don't feel you have to memorize these. Part of our public outreach later in the job will be putting these detours out on email and the project website prior to one being implemented so everyone knows what to expect. In addition, signage will be in place to direct you along the detour routes. As we walk through these detours, you'll hear me refer to things like Ramp A or Ramp B. Unlike streets in your town, ramps don't have easy names, and I-495 northbound to Route 28 northbound gets to be a mouthful after a while, so we assign a letter to each ramp for easy reference. Again, no need to memorize these, you'll get to see them again before they are implemented. Ramp A is 495 northbound to Route 28 southbound. Ramp B is 495 southbound to Route 28 southbound. Ramp C is Route 28 southbound to 495 southbound. Ramp D is 28 northbound to 495 southbound. Ramp E is 495 northbound to Route 28 northbound. And lastly, Ramp F is for Route 28 northbound to 495 northbound. For the closure of Route 28 south at I-495 off-ramp B. This detour will be used when demolition of the bridges over Route 28 southbound or letting beams for their replacements takes place. If traffic is coming towards 495 from downtown Lawrence, The signed detour would be left from Route 28 southbound onto Andover Street, right onto Route 114, under 495, right onto High Street, right onto Haverhill Street, and then a left back onto Route 28 southbound. For traffic that is already south of Andover Street or heading south to the 495 main line, those vehicles would get to stay on the interstate at or through the Route 28 interchange. They would then travel south, one interchange to I-93, use the ramps then to reverse direction, and come back to Route 495 28 interchange, exiting to 28 southbound, heading for Andover. For the closure of 28 North and I-495 off-ramps D and E. This detour would be used during demolition of the bridges over Route 28 northbound or when setting beams for their replacements. For traffic coming north from Andover, the movement is a reverse of what we stepped through for the Route 28 southbound closure. Haverhill Street to Route 114, under 495 to Andover Street, and then back to Route 28. For traffic that has either missed the first detour or originates between Andover Street and 495 and wants to head into Lawrence, we would route those drivers one exit north onto 495 to the Route 114 interchange, where they could pick up the local detour to Andover Street and back to 28. Traffic from Andover seeking to access 495 southbound likewise has two options. One is to take the local detour using Haverhill Street and Route 114 to the interstate. The other is to continue north past Andover Street, get on 495 northbound, and then use the 114 interchange to reverse direction and head south. Closure of 495 on ramps C and D. This one is a little tricky because ramps C and D merge into a single ramp before they funnel into 495 southbound. Ramp C collects traffic from Route 28 headed towards Andover, and Ramp D collects traffic from Route 28 heading towards Lawrence. For traffic coming from Lawrence that would normally use Ramp C, we would detour them along Andover Street to 114 to the interchange with 495, where they could go south along the interstate. For traffic coming from Andover that would normally use Ramp D, we would pick them up at Haverhill Street, send them to Route 114, and from there to the 495 interchange, where they could go south. For any traffic originating between Haverhill Street and 495, or traffic coming from Andover that missed the first option, they could get onto 495 going north, go up to the 114 interchange, and reverse direction. Closure of 495 northbound off-ramp E. Ramp E takes northbound traffic from 495 to Route 28 heading towards Lawrence. When that is closed for work, again, you may be detecting something of a theme here, we would send drivers to the 114 interchange and then have them get off on 114 northbound to Andover Street and then back there to their desired line along Route 28. Closure of 495 off Ramp F. Ramp F takes traffic from 28 northbound to 495 northbound. When that is closed, traffic has two options. The first is to travel along Haverhill Street to 114, where drivers can get onto the interstate headed towards Lowell. The other option for drivers originating north of Haverhill Street, or those that have missed the Haverhill Street, is to get on 495 southbound, use the ramps at the I-93 interchange to reverse direction, and then head north. For the reversal of South Union Street. This next detour is a little tricky, so we're going to take this one slow. This image shows our larger map where the section of Route 28 immediately to the north of 495 highlighted by the blue box. There are some unique challenges associated with this area when we have work taking place on Route 28 northbound. I'll go over those now. There are two images on this slide. The one on the left represents existing conditions. The one on the right are anticipated detour condition when Route 28 northbound is closed. First, I will go over existing conditions and then address the proposed conditions. So just bear with me as we walk through this. As I'm sure you are aware, Route 28 splits a little bit before it passes under 495. As you're going under the bridge, northbound traffic is on South Union Street and southbound traffic is on North Main Street. South Union Street traffic can either go straight and continue onto Union Street or veer left onto South Street, crossing below a bridge that carries southbound traffic from South Union Street to Route 28 going towards Andover. There are homes along Shepley and Binney Streets, as well as businesses like Stewart Electrical Contracting and Mako Auto Body, which can only be accessed by traveling north on South Union Street. That's not that big a deal under normal conditions because just south of 495, there's a U-turn which allows traffic to reverse direction to reach those destinations. That's how things work today. When we have to close Route 28 under 495, there's not really a good way for residents on Shepley or Binney Street to get back to their homes after they've left. They can go north, but there's no good way to get back. To make sure they have access, we will convert a short stretch of South Union Street for two-way operation so folks can get out and then back to their homes. I want to emphasize a few things about this change. This would only be implemented during the overnight hours after most folks have already gotten home. As you can see with the little police officer graphics on the image to the left, we will have 2 police details present while the change is in effect to help keep everyone safe. Lastly, this is getting a little into Nate's territory, but anytime we are going to change the direction of operation on a section of roadway, we will flyer the impacted homes and businesses along with the usual email distributions and website updates. South Union Street, northbound return detour. One last detour slide. This is the South Union Street northbound return detour. Effectively, this is for traffic originating around Shepley or Binney Streets that has a destination on South Union Street to the south of Route 114, such as the RMV or America's Food Basket. We would send drivers north to Andover Street and then over to 114 where they can connect to South Union Street to go wherever they need to go. I'll now turn this back over to Mike.
All right, so obviously we know we're gonna be here for 4 years. There are residents that live, pretty close to 400 feet away. Something that's very important to us and the project is making sure that we're good neighbors. Our project requirements, we have to create a bunch of different plans to ensure that we meet our obligations to being good neighbors. The first plan we have to do is a real-time traffic monitoring plan. So I'm sure many of you seen driving up and down the highway, you see the big VMS boards and sensors telling people how fast it's going and how long it's going to take from point A to point B. We will be implementing that on this project. That's a big effort to make sure that if people see the minor inconvenience of traffic, they know exactly how long it is going to take to go through our mile-long project. That typically keeps people on the main road and off of the back roads, and also just gives us a better way to manage traffic on a day-to-day nature. Some other things that we'll be doing is we do have noise and dust control plans that are submitted to MassDOT for approval. Those plans, once are approved, are enforced heavily to make sure we're obviously following everything that we are committing to. So just some mitigations that we will be taking throughout the entire project to make sure that we don't have too many dust and noise issues. I'll start with dust. We'll have constant water trucks on site, so anywhere we have exposed ground, we'll be wetting the soil so as the material gets moved around or vehicles move in and out, that dust doesn't get built up and doesn't make its way to the travel lanes. As far as noise, all of the message signs and that I mentioned that will be a part of the real-time traffic monitoring, those are all going to be solar powered, so you won't hear a noisy generator at night. Our nighttime operations, like I said, we do have noise control plans, so if you think of it this way, you have 3 different levels of noise requirements that we have to follow. Daytime is obviously the loudest, evening, right in the middle, and nighttime, we have to be as quiet as we can. And obviously all of these throughout the course of the project, we'll be in touch with the community, so you will know when we will be working out at nights, when some of our major operations come up. With that, we're also coordinating with New Hampshire DOT to avoid as much confusion and congestion as possible. So a quick look ahead. Right now, obviously, the weather really holds out for us. We're looking to start construction in the May-June timeframe. You won't notice too much of us for the first 30 days. A lot of it is going to be mobilization. We'll be starting to establish our work zones. We'll have some minor clearing and grubbing that will be going on in the median, sign installation for traffic control. But the bulk of our work will be down along the MBTA right-of-way commuter rail. We're not disrupting train service, so if you do take the train, you're going to be good to go. We'll be installing a duct bank for the National Grid. I mentioned this quick before, but I do want to run through it again. So just in broad terms, the project is roughly 4 years. We're starting in the spring, summer of 2024, working to 2025. We'll then enter stage 2. Stage 2, as I mentioned, is taking the northbound lanes, shifting them into the median, where we build the new northbound bridges. That stage is approximately a year. The following year, into 26, we move northbound back to their new home on the new northbound bridges, shift the southbound lanes into the center median, and demo and rebuild the southbound bridges. And then into summer, fall of 27, traffic will be aligned into its final position, and we'll be working on demobbing, final cleanup, and getting under everyone's hair for a little bit. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Nate to talk about how he will keep everyone informed. We will.
Thank you very much, Mike. All right, very close to the end here. So this is how to stay informed. I don't know what your cell phones will do at this range, but I encourage you to try it. That will allow you to sign up for weekly updates. So MassDOT usually has these projects issue an update which goes on the website, which is that. And those usually come out every other Friday or every other Thursday, whichever day we pick. We usually try to pick something close to the end of the week, and you'll know why in a minute. But with this one, the goal is to really try and keep people informed, given the impact, given the, again, how tight the community is on the project, with those homes, in some cases, under 400 feet away. So these will be coming out every week, and what it will say is, it'll say, what did we work on this week? What have we gotten done on sort of crucial things? And then what can you expect in the next upcoming week ahead? You can always email us with questions and concerns. That email account is in fact live at this time. We've already answered some questions and had some nice conversations through the account. That comes to me, it comes to our legislative liaison, Dan Fielding, and it also comes to Joe. We do get back to folks. Typically that takes a day or two. Could be a little longer if it's a complicated question, because I get the email, I make the ring around with kind of everybody who's involved, I massage all that together, then it goes back to Joe, he checks it off for accuracy, says, yep, in getting it kind of ready for public consumption, you didn't blur the meaning on anything, you didn't get anything wrong, and then the response goes out. We have a project hotline that is actually being handled for us by a company that's right down the road in Billerica called AnswerNet, so it was nice to be able to find something local. This is not active yet. There's no reason to have it active in the month of April, but we will probably be activating it at some point in May. I'm going to give you an over-the-top example that won't happen, but here's kind of how I like to think of when do I use the hotline versus when I use the email account. If you want to know, is there going to be a detour this weekend? My there's a VMS board near my house that stopped working, that's a great thing for the email. If there's something on fire in the work zone, call the hotline. Again, that is over the top, probably not going to happen, but it just helps to kind of parse it in your mind. And that is that. I don't believe we have anybody in the audience this evening who won an election to hold their job. But if there is anybody who, yes, sir, you get to go first. So I will walk this down to you, and you can ask your question.
Hi, my name is Mark LaPlante. The city council that actually represents the bulk of where this is going in Lawrence. Couple of technical things. One, there is no North Main Street in Lawrence. We call it South Broadway. So if you're going to be making any kind of maps, I would hope that the maps have South Broadway as opposed to North Main Street. There isn't one of those. You mentioned a couple of times peak driving times. What is peak driving times? That's the question. The other thing is there are going to be tremendous, in your studies that you've been doing, I'm sure you have, what kind of impacts have you detected that you could give us a heads up on that you anticipate? As I'm watching the popsicle headache, different places where the detours are, obviously there's going to be confusion, and there's a tremendous, my mouth's still open, there's a tremendous ride around for some of these, and I'm presuming that there's no other way you can do it, but with those tremendously long detours, there are going to be impacts. My question would be as well, what are your anticipated impacts that you would have, especially on the Lawrence side and the Andover side for obvious reasons, so what would be the impacts on the Lawrence side? I think that's my starters.
I will wear the goat for the incorrect road name. I will also desperately try to pass it on to Google, although I doubt that they will do anything with it, but we will correct those maps. I think your other questions are probably best handled by Eric, so I will pass that over to him.
So there's a few different ways that we look at traffic. The first thing that we did as a team was we made some changes to the base technical concept. Excuse me, I gotta get a drink. Doing too much talking. So we are very aware of impacts and reducing impacts. The first thing we did as a team on the project was remove the split barrel that was in place in the base concept when we received it from the previous designer. So that was the first thing we did as a team. And you saw from the images that Mike put up, when we do the staging, we're keeping 495 running in 3 lanes, continuous lanes. They'll be shifted in and out of the median, but we removed the split barrel approach, so we feel that that was the first thing to help 495 at least maintain its current level of operations. On Route 28, as we mentioned, the detours are only going to occur when we're doing demo up top on 495 and we have to shut the road. But those will all be done at night. I don't know what the time frame, usually it's after 9 o'clock. So when we talk about affecting the rush hour, the commuter hours, that's typically when people are coming to and from work. I know it's often busy throughout the day as well, midday, with all the different activities at schools and hospitals. Usually rush hour is 7 to 9 a.m. and like 3 to 6 p.m. But all of our detours would be occurring later at night, 9 o'clock, overnight. So the majority of people should be home by then. And the detours, as we walk through, there's certainly some detours that use the Route 114, in Andover Street to come back and around. That's the major signed detour route. But for local residents, they can take whatever streets that they feel like they can take, that's more familiar to them. But we do have to sign at least one particular route. That's sort of an advantage of this project with the interchanges and the close spacing is if you miss that detour coming into the village center and you're still headed towards 495 where the road's closed, there's on-ramps to the highway that allow us to detour traffic to the 114 interchange to reverse direction, or using the 93 interchange, which isn't ideal. We know that these roads are busy, but the project is put out to limit those detours only to the times when we're demoing or erecting beams on the bridge, which is limited. It's not occurring every night over the 4 years. It's probably a few dozen times over 4 years, and it's also later at night.
And if you would, Counselor, before you go today, just come see me because I'll want to go into this PowerPoint and put like just a text box over where it should be South Broadway so that I can communicate it back to our graphics folks so that when we give this on the 23rd, it's correct.
And the other thing I would ask as well is that you be more affirmative in your
Definition of when the peak time is. I've heard 9 o'clock. So a lot of us think peak times are different times.
Right.
But if you get that 1 hour, 9 to whatever it is, 3 to 9, or whatever you determine is the peak times, there's no confusion as to what Mass DOT / the project folks are thinking of when they're going to have those kinds of impacts. And so you said a couple of dozen times, there 3 or 4 dozen times in the course of the next 4 years, we will see those impacts, is what I heard with respect to detours. It was like, did I hear that correctly?
Yeah, late at night. So, the traffic is much reduced after 9 p.m. It's not the level of traffic that you would see during rush hour. So that's, thank you.
Yeah, there's a lot of traffic, let's say in the afternoon between 3 and 6 p.m. You see a lot of traffic on the streets. Because the detours are happening at 9 o'clock, the traffic is already greatly reduced, so the number of people that we're detouring will be less.
Other questions? Yes, sir.
Thank you. Excuse me. Quick introduction. I was Mark's former colleague on the City Council in Lawrence. Quick thing about my history. I've got over 50 years of land surveying experience. I worked on I-95 in the early 70s up in Topsfield. I worked on 3 or 4 projects in Essex County, 93, 95, Route 1 in Salisbury. So I'm quite familiar with this. Now, the one thing I haven't heard mentioned, I got three questions. First question is, what is the cost of this project? What process do you have in place to prevent this from becoming the Merrimack Valley's Big Dig? And 3, I'm pulling stuff out of my head, was the concept of what they did in Medford by replacing the bridges about 6 years ago, a bridge a weekend. Was that concept ever considered for doing this? Thank you.
You want to fill out an application when we get finished with this? I said, do you want to fill out an application when we get finished with this?
You're not 178-year-old.
Age is a protected class. We'll do our best.
Yeah, so thank you for your question. So the cost of the project is $98 million, just over $98 million. So that includes the 6 bridges and the 1 mile of highway work. We're going to repave everything. We're going to have all new guardrails, new overhead signs. Everything will be brand new on the highway through that 1 mile. As far as cost overruns, the great thing about design build, I mean, these guys might not think it's great, but we don't really put too much on the plans. We put very general information on the plans, and the contractor and the design team really owns what they design. So if they design something and there's a utility in the way, well, they designed it, so they own it. So a lot of the overruns that you would see on the Big Dig were changes that were unforeseen, that we said this piece of the bridge needed to get installed in this location, but there were 6 utilities in the way, and since we said it had to go there, we have to pay for the change. I'm sorry, I missed the third question.
The bridge replacement that they did in the Medford area about 6 or 8 years ago.
Fast 14. Fast 14. Yeah, so really I would say the biggest thing is cost. We could have done a Fast 14 type project here, but that typically comes with lots and lots of overtime, and it increases the cost. So doing it this way, we're able to maintain 3 lanes of traffic in each direction on 495. So we're actually building the project without any impacts to traffic at all, instead of, you know, the Fast 14 project, we had to install a zipper barrier, split the barrel, and you actually had 93 down to 2 lanes in each direction. So this approach was better for all those reasons.
So time was more important than money. Is that what you're trying to tell?
On the Fast 14, I would say yes.
Fast 14, they did a bridge on weekends.
Yep.
Friday night at what, 9 o'clock? And then the bridge was in place, usable at 5 o'clock on Monday morning. That was just one portion, one bridge deck. I'm not saying the entire structure, but just one bridge deck. That was never considered for this.
Yeah, they also didn't replace the substructures, so it's just a different project. We're fully replacing these bridges. We're gonna have new piles all the way down to the ground. These are gonna be completely new. So hopefully that answers your 3 questions. Okay.
Others? Sure, great.
Yeah, hi. So my question is, there's 14,700 each way using Route 28. Has a traffic study been done on this project? And if so, is it available to the public?
So those numbers came from a thing called the Functional Design Report, which gets done as part of that 25.
New traffic study, given the impact that...
Gotcha, that's one for Eric.
So there will be no new traffic study, and the way that these design-build projects occur is that the original team studies it, comes up with a mitigation, and forms the project, and then our team as design builders, we're buying that project and we're building that project under a lump sum price. So any studies we do would be maybe some spot studies to look at sight lines or things like that. We're not doing any new traffic studies because there's no work on traffic signals. There's no alteration.
Come on, let's be realistic here.
What will
If
it,
we're going to change traffic around on Lowell Street, we're going to change it around on all these interchanges, there's going to be traffic problems. So you guys, you saying you haven't studied it?
no, that's not true.
And you don't have a study on it?
We have the studies.
Where is the study?
We've adopted the study. It's available.
Where's the study?
It's available on the website for the project.
Which way?
MassDOT's website for the project.
I don't know, I've looked all over, I haven't seen it.
I'm sure we can get you the study.
Yeah.
So we have the study, it has new data. The prior consultant studied everything as far as traffic control. Now, what we did was they studied having a split barrel configuration on 495, and we decided that wasn't what we wanted to do. So we're maintaining 3 lanes on 495 with no split barrel.
So you're saying there's going to be no traffic impact on Andover?
Anytime you build something, there's always an impact, but what we've done is we've mitigated it.
Impact? What impact do you expect?
We don't really expect much of an impact. So when we do the
So you're going to
detours,
study then? Or are you just saying that?
no, we did the study. We have the numbers.
Let me see the study.
You can certainly see the study. And one thing that we're doing is we're leaving all the lanes open during the day, so there's no impact to traffic. We don't
You know
take
that's a joke, right?
We don't take lanes on the street, They'll be narrower, so there will be slowdowns from that, but we're maintaining full lanes on 495 and 28.
You really
So-
believe that?
Yes, that's what we have to do.
Okay.
That's how we've pitched the job, and that's how we're going to work it. So we changed the configuration on 495. We took out the split barrel, so we're having 3 lanes continuous with no split barrel. So that's a huge safety improvement. We're building up the median for the temporary 3 lanes. And 28 doesn't get affected until we have to demo beams and we have to shut the road. Otherwise, we're keeping the full lanes on 28 all the time. So we've lessened the impacts, and the study is available. We can provide it to you.
And I think, the other thing to bear in mind is that, Eric's not going anywhere, right? So when one of these things goes in, I just want everybody to understand, because I know we have to, we were going through these, and it's a lot, and you're probably going to get sick of seeing these diagrams because they're going to be with you for the full length of the job. But, each time you see this where it says detour info, that's one of those signs that's solar powered, right? That we talked about earlier. That's an electric sign. Where it says D, that's a static sign. So there's all this signage to help people know what to do. That's one of the key things. You get congestion when people get confused. What do I need to be doing now? So that's one of the reasons there's all of this here. We will probably find, there may be some things that we find out, we need an extra sign at this location. Or, this confuses people, we'll try something different. It's not as though Eric's gonna kind of fire it and forget it. Each time we implement one of these, if there's something we discover that we can improve, we'll improve it. That's the goal. This is not just that, hey, this is it, this is what you get, and we won't change it even if something's, not working right. So we'll keep at it. I will say, having done another job with Middlesex on I-495 between 2009 and 2011, that had a split barrel, but when it had detours, it did do them at night. There is a substantial drop in the volumes at night. It does help. It's not nothing. To be fair to your point, the project website does not contain that functional design report because prior to going to this construction phase, I don't think this thing had a standalone website. It was all for itself. But we can find a way to get the functional design report to you if you want to review it. Just make sure that you've left us your email and, see me after the meeting. We'll just note that that's something you want.
I have another question. What percentage of drivers do you think use Waze or Google Maps, which aren't going to be interested in any of this stuff? Is that part of your calculation?
So the question, I'm just going to repeat it for the media. So the question was, who's going to use Waze, who uses Google Maps? What percentage?
Have you calculated use Waze or Google Maps that will lead them on the speediest path they can find? Secondary roads, tertiary roads, whatever you want to call them, rural roads, they don't care, they go the fastest. You think it's 50% of the people have that application run?
Well, so the good,
5%? 10%?
I don't know that anybody's ever calculated a percent on that. I think a lot of people.
Good idea, right?
Well, hang on. There's a lady that I work with at Mass DOT whose job it is to provide these things to those organizations. They don't always cooperate, but we do provide them to us. One of the things that's kind of good about this, because I've been driving basically this kind of quadrangle with a little bit of stuff up here, and a little bit down there, and a little bit down there. But really, a lot of those flyering locations are here. One of the things that's kind of nice about this space is that there's some areas that are kind of impermeable, right? If you're here, there's the railroad line, there's this pond, there's places that you can't get through. So you're kind of channeled into these corridors. I'm sure that some people will opt to do this and use that road. Locals they know the area. They know every possible route. But again, the signed detours are there because we have to have a signed detour. And that's to prevent people from becoming confused, disoriented, and going the wrong way.
I'll give you a hint.
Okay?
People going I-495 to 93 avoid that interchange today like the plague.
This one.
Yeah, right there.
Okay?
So you're telling me they're going to start going down there and go around?
Well, those are only for nighttime, when we have to demo the bridge.
Anything.
We know it's busy all the time, but we wouldn't put a detour through a neighborhood either.
So, again, the detours are only for nighttime. It is overwhelming seeing 8 or 9 detour routes, and that's not the message. The message is we're only closing the road at night, and we coordinate with police, fire, emergency, the whole town, and the messaging goes out. But it's at night, it's after 9 p.m. And then we sign the routes so that nobody gets lost. I agree, most people do use Waze or Google or their GPS, but we don't rely on that. If we could rely on it, we wouldn't spend the money to put out any of this stuff. We put it down to the lowest level for people that don't have those services. So that's why we put up the signs and pass out the flyers. But it's a nighttime activity, so we're really expecting that it's after rush hour, people are at home, they've had dinner already, they're watching TV. That's when the second shift kicks in for these guys.
One last question. Picking up on this gentleman's question about the traffic study, what vintage, how old are those traffic studies? Because I know I've gone on the MassDOT site looking for traffic studies, and I have found them to be 10 to 15 years old, at least in the urban Lawrence area. Your traffic studies there are 495 and 28 and the other roads. How far back were they done?
Yeah.
Do you know the exact vintage of the FDR?
I can't tell you the exact date, but I'm pretty sure it was done in 2020. And what we do when we do traffic studies is we project out to the year that we feel like the project's being built. And also because of the pandemic, there wasn't a lot of good data at some periods of time, so in some cases they used older data, but this was a newer traffic study, and it's got all the information that you would be
Well,
interested in.
2020 was the pandemic, right?
Yeah, I have to look up the exact date, I just showed it.
Yeah, so the other thing, just to add to that, is since we were designing the project for a 75-year life, we also projected out well beyond for the traffic volumes. So they do calculations to get the traffic volumes in 2040, for an example. So we have that data in the functional design report as well. I do take your point about the pandemic, so we have to check on that. But I would assume that was accounted for.
Yeah. Any studies that were done during the pandemic either used older data, pre-pandemic, that's good data that was factored forward, or if they did collect data during the pandemic, the state had a whole mobility dashboard, which, and a methodology to increase the data to match previous years. So there are trends. We wouldn't do a study in a slump and use that data. As I mentioned, we're keeping all the lanes open. So, it's the normal construction impact. It's not like we're taking away lanes. Everything's going to be
No,
pretty
we're
normal.
not talking about traffic on 495. We're talking about traffic in the residential areas.
Yeah, all the lanes are going to stay
All
open.
the other things, right?
Yeah, all the lanes.
This is a big cut through as it is now,
That's right.
as it is today,
Right.
right? So
This
if you do
whole,
anything to that area, it's going to be more of a cut through, is that correct?
that's why we removed the split barrel for 495, so we could eliminate the reason for people to bail off. So we kept it as 3 full lanes in each direction.
Right.
So,
4 years from now.
Well, no, all through the job,
all through the job, right.
all through the job. So
So instead of having 2 lanes and then a split barrel with a single lane, which is confusing, which could cause issues. We're maintaining 3 lanes. It's gonna be seamless, it's gonna feel seamless. You're gonna see the work in the center, and then it's just a slight
So,
shift.
Are you saying that people who are cutting through Andover now are gonna stop cutting through Andover because they got a new bridge?
It's not gonna change any of the patterns and things that are happening today. People already have a way that they make their way home. You know, if you're a more local resident, you might think that you can get off now and navigate some local streets. That's pretty typical for all the interchanges and all the work that we do. If you're a long hauler, you're not gonna get off and just start cutting through. These traffic patterns are pretty well set in the 495, 93 interchange. It's a busy interchange. And there's a very defined period where it's worse. But, you know, the project is leaving all the lanes open on 28 and on 495. So we're not expecting to make things worse just because of the project. We're even putting up shielding so people can't stop and watch.
Others? Somebody who hasn't had anything to say yet? Certainly, sir. I do appreciate how everybody is super polite and stands up to take the microphone, but you don't have to. I do like working up here. You guys are nice.
Thank you. Juan Manny Gonzalez. I live in South Lawrence, and I'm Colonial Heights, so I'm right there, 114 and 495, right next to Councilor LaFlante's house. I encourage you guys to really disseminate this information.
Where you are with the microphone? That's where you live?
I can see.
Oh, okay.
114 and 495. Where?
So it's kind of the next interchange down here?
Yeah.
Okay. Very good.
So right about here. So I know that there's going to be, you know, we got people cutting through right now with the Dalton says to our neighborhood, Chicklin Road and all that. But I'm encouraging you guys to please take advantage of city councilors, neighborhood associations, anyone that you can disseminate this information to keep it flowing. Because understanding the city, not only as a firefighter, but as a resident of the city, I'm over here sitting thinking, what if we have an emergency in one of these construction sites? How do we approach it? There's only so many different ways that you can get to it, especially with a big ladder truck. But I think it's important that this community at times don't take time to read everything that they need to. So I will encourage you to really distribute this information as best possible. Take advantage of the city councilors, every district can take the information. Neighborhood associations, like Brenda Russell, Liv Russell. I think it's going to be useful. I understand people are going to learn about other ways to stay away from the construction site. You're going to have signage. So I was listening when you were talking about people coming up 495 North, and if people can jump on 93 North and get into Lawrence different than have to go through there, even though you have the detours. I was looking at the one in particular in which you're kind of going by it to then go back over the construction site. There might be other alternatives that people can actually just take to go to where they want to go without having to go back, because like we said, it's going to be slowdowns. So my point was to try to disseminate this information the best you can to the residents of Lawrence so that it's a better understanding of the project. Thank you.
So that's absolutely perfect, and you're saying it to somebody who, that's his whole job. So right now we have, that I talked about the email system that sends things out to people. That's going to go out every week. The database that runs that now is 300 plus people. The mayors of Lawrence and Methuen and the town manager of Andover are on there. All members of those communities' respective city councils, or in the case of Andover Select Board, are in there. The school departments are in there, the fire departments, police chiefs, they're all in there. The ambulance companies that come out of the various hospitals, they're in there. So that's being done. Anybody who came tonight, we will take your email address and put it in the database. Right there is a great, it's going to get passed on through the neighborhood organization. If there are groups that you think perhaps have been overlooked, and there's somebody where you're like, it definitely needs to go out through them, write an email, see me at the end of this, say, hey, I'd love you to have X, Y, Z in there. Can you please make sure that they are part of your system? We are reaching out to, as I noted, this is a first for me, and I've been doing this for over a decade now. We're actually in communication with New Hampshire DOT. We've asked them, we don't want to get into their policies and procedures, but there is someone that we've had a phone call with up there, and they've confirmed that yes, they're a live human being. Yes, they will forward the information and put it out the way that they would, because New Hampshire's just that way a little bit. And I'm sure that if we went out and stood by 495, we would see a good mix of New Hampshire plates in there as well. In fact, I'm pretty sure there's a couple in the lot right now. So we're really trying to make that work. You notice the public access cable TV channels, and all those folks are in the database, so anytime we do something, they can put that out. So again, to some extent, you're preaching to the choir, talking to me about outreach, because that's how I afford my mortgage. But I get you 100%, and if there's some group that you think, please go check your database and make sure they're in there, I would like nothing better. So thank you.
I just want to, for the people that are going to be watching this and people that know me, I will encourage anybody to seek other alternatives. Stay away from the construction site. We have other ways to get around. If you must go through there, then you have to go through there. But if you can avoid the construction site, seek other alternatives.
A proper pro tip. Thank you, sir. Others? You? Okay, it's like, this is like an auction now, you have to make a comment. I mean, going once, going twice. But as I say, nobody on this project is going away. All of those resources that we showed you are real. Email, once that, we'll activate the hotline. If there's something that's, really urgent, call. You can get that in 3 different languages. English, Spanish, and Vietnamese. It will be staffed, it will come to us. As Eric said, people are going to find, locals are going to figure out ways to, as this gentleman said, bypass things completely. Maybe you stay on 495 and go all the way in that way. Maybe you stay on 93. But we think we have a reasonable plan to try to keep everybody moving. And importantly, for the 195 people who are ringside to know what's going on, and to maintain their livability while we try to maintain everybody's mobility. So please, if for that South Broadway thing, come see me afterwards. If you think of a community organization, send it to me, and we'll do something about getting you the functional design report. Going once, going twice. You can come and see it in Andover on the 23rd. Okay. Thank you for joining us. Have a great night. I hope everybody got a peek at the eclipse today. It was actually pretty cool. So, thank you folks. Appreciate it.